Welcome to It's Good to Talk, the podcast that equips parents with conversations they need to have. My name is Emma McLean. I'm an executive coach. I work exclusively with working parents. Working and having a family is darn hard. And a way to get through this time in your life is to have better conversations. It's to talk about it. I believe that hope is not a strategy. Asking for what you need is, and that's why it's good to talk. Let's get into it. Hello, it's your friend Emma, and today I am delighted to be interviewing Sophie Moskowitz. Sophie is the founder of Imperfect Parents, which is a great business, which I'm going to let her introduce. She's a mum, and today we're going to have a talk about conversations that she thinks matters when you are working and you have a family. Kia ora. Welcome, Sophie. I'd love for you to introduce yourself in whatever way you'd like to, and your business as well.
Sure. Kia ora, Emma. Thank you for having me. Yes, so I'm Sophie Moskowitz. I am a mum of 3 children. My kids are 8, 5 and 1. The 1-year-old's sleeping in the garage at the moment, so
fingers crossed.
Yeah, the real, literally doing the mum juggle right now. And yes, as you said, about 3 years ago now, I founded my business Imperfect Parents, and we are currently based in Tamaki Makaurau, but stay tuned. We run inclusive antenatal courses for parents, and then we run postnatal support groups and now playgroups as well. So we really see ourselves as like an inclusive wraparound support space for parents where the focus is primarily on parents and their well-being as opposed to the babies necessarily, particularly with our postnatal support groups. It's all about providing spaces where parents can come together, share their stories with each other, share their experiences where they talk. So very much on board with this kaupapa of It's Good to Talk. That's really, really the primary kaupapa of what we do at Imperfect Parents is provide spaces for people to feel safe enough to share what they are going through, and in the process of doing so, find community, find friendship, reduce those feelings of isolation that can often come with parenthood. Yeah, and support parents' well-being in the process.
Amazing. And, I've met Sophie once before because, when you're on the interweb, you meet people, but hearing you talk that back so articulately around the proposition of Imperfect Parents and the groups you run and how they're actually focused on the well-being of the parent, not the child, it sounds like a flip to me. I mean, is it a flip?
I think so. I think I created it because when I was with my babies, there's so much out there, like during the week when you're at home with a baby, there's a lot of different things you can go to, but they're all really baby focused, like wriggle and rhyme and
sensory gym.
Yeah, and I was an early childhood teacher, so I'd really done all of that quite a lot. I was had enough of singing nursery rhymes, and it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And
come on, wheels on the bus. That never gets old.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it does. It really does. Yeah, I just found myself kind of getting frustrated with sitting on the sidelines of these activities and trying to have conversations with other parents in the in-between times. Yeah, I wanted to create something where that was actually the focus. The other real impetus for me was that my second was born right at the beginning of COVID. And so I found myself at home on my own with my toddler and my baby for every lockdown, and just finding it so incredibly hard. And as I said, I'd been an early childhood teacher. I've worked with children my whole life. I was like, why is this so hard? I know what to do. I've been looking after children for years, but realizing that what was so hard about it was the isolation. The job itself sometimes is not that hard, but doing it on your own is really hard. And that's not how we evolved to do this as human beings. So it felt so unnatural because it is unnatural. This is not how we were supposed to do it. And I'm lucky that the rest of the time when we weren't in lockdowns, I had other friends with children that we could go and hang out, and that really lightens the load. But I know that there are so many other people who come into parenthood and don't have that support network. So it was thinking about how we can create that for parents. And coffee groups are quite a natural way of doing it that a lot of people do, but often coffee groups are a little bit like the blind leading the blind, and it's often all first-time parents. So one of the things that I love about our groups is that it's often a real mix of first, second, third-time parents, so you get the different perspectives, and we always have a facilitator there as well to go like, oh, that thing that you're sharing with each other that you read online is actually not true. Because there's so much misinformation out there. There's real information overload for parents to be navigating. And if you don't know, you don't know. Everyone's doing their best, but there's just so much out there that's preying on parents' anxieties and insecurities and vulnerabilities. So we really want to help kind of guide people to what is useful rather than what is harmful, because there's a lot out there that is actually harmful.
You know, when you talk that back, I love that idea of a facilitator because, and I do think I think so many of what you're creating here is driven by real insight. Like these groups are typically only for first-time parents, right? And actually, what I know from my work is second baby, third baby, fourth baby, it's like the need doesn't stop and it actually gets different as well, right? And also I love this idea that you have a facilitator because yes, we do have coffee groups, but do you know what as well? When I go to a gathering, I want there to be some kind of structure, like, because time is important and I don't want it to descend into a gossip session, right? And so this facilitator, again, can bring information, but also can provide some structure. Is that right?
Yes, and that's exactly what we do. Yeah. So our groups are structured sessions. Also, the other nice thing is that it's like one person there who doesn't have their own baby and they can bring everyone a hot drink and bring them a plate of food. And it's like we can kind of look after you as well, which
love it.
And when you're a parent, that doesn't happen very often.
Love it.
Yeah. So it's like, kind of looking after the emotional well-being, the physical well-being, like really, really it's that whole holistic well-being that we're trying to look after in this one little space of time.
Love it. Do you offer it for parents of teenagers?
I would love to.
I could sign up for that.
That is honestly part of my goal has been to go, let's go right the way through.
Yes.
You never stop needing it. Yeah, my oldest is 8 and it's like, the conversations that we are starting to have, like, I would love to debrief this with other parents.
Yeah. And I mean, Imperfect Parents. Tell me about that name.
Yeah. So that really... that was a little bit to do with my own kind of personal journey of like recovering perfectionism. I read the book by Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection, when my first was a baby. And it was a real revelation to me in like how good it is not to do things perfectly, how important it is to make mistakes, how important it is to be human. And a lot of that is linked with feelings of shame that are often linked with making mistakes. And shame, I really like her line that's something like, shame dies when stories are told in safe places. And so creating these safe spaces where we can talk about our stories, we can say like, hey, I'm finding this really hard, or like, I'm not enjoying every moment. And for other people to be like, yeah, me too. Then it just takes the shame away. And the shame is like, we often heap that upon ourselves and that makes everything even harder. Also with Imperfect Parents, we really, like another one of our kind of mottos is that there's just no one right way to do this. And, you know, there's so many different parenting philosophies and approaches. And often when things are shared online, particularly like on social media, because you only have a couple of minutes, it's really hard to convey any kind of nuance. So things come across as being really black and white. And part of what we do is explore the ways that like everyone's journey to parenthood is different and all of our backgrounds are different and all of our families are different and all of that affects how we parent. And there's no right way to do this. There's no one way that's going to work for every family. Every child is different and needs different things. So there's no one way that's going to work for everybody. And we're not trying to get this perfect because that's not possible and it's not actually good.
Yeah, and agree. And if I go through Instagram, there is a lot of perfection there. There is a lot of kids wearing matching clothes and not on screens and I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of pressures on parents, aren't there?
Exactly. And I actually started my own Instagram page, which is now it's Imperfect Parents, but originally it was Imperfectly Sophie. And it was just me sharing my parenting. And I started that when my second was a baby, when it was during COVID, because I was getting said so much on my feed of like, particularly during lockdowns, like, here are all the activities you should be doing with your children to make sure that they're still learning. And as an early childhood teacher, I was like, no, you actually don't need to do any of that. Like, children learn regardless of whether you're setting up activities for them or not. So I really wanted to create a space on the internet that was going like, you really, like, what you're doing is enough most of the time. And this real message of like good enough parenting is enough. We don't have to be like wringing ourselves in
Setting up
circles
crafting tables every day at 9.
and baking
No.
food from scratch every day. And like, yeah, just all of that. It's like, they actually just don't need that. And the parents were just I could just see so many parents putting themselves under so much pressure in an already really difficult situation. It just is unnecessary.
Yeah, and I think it's so beautiful. I love hearing you talk, because I just want to agree. Because I think in my work, when I work primarily with people that are returning to work, already back at work, and they have a family, and this idea that I hear you say around the pressure we put ourselves under, like to be this perfect parent and to be fully educating our children and restricting all the risks that could occur to them, and plus earning money because that's what our society decides we need. And it's
and
a lot.
Cooking every meal from scratch and ensuring that our children are never watching TV and all of that. It's like, that's not actually possible for most people unless you can pay a whole lot of people to help you do that.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I play a video in my workshops by a British actress called Cush Jumbo, and she talked to BBC Women's Hour on how she does the juggle. And one of the things she says, which I just ask all my clients to embrace, is Cush says, every day I try to fail at something. And I think it's such disruptive thinking, because I think a lot of us, in the moment we wake up, our little brain ticks into all the things that have to happen today, and they can all be strung together with the tiniest thread, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I could go down like a whole rabbit hole of like ranting about the patriarchy and capitalism and the way that we've been.
We'll do it on a different podcast, because I'm up for that conversation as well. And just before we get on to the good conversations, but one thing I've heard you say a couple of times is that you talk about these being inclusive groups, and you talk about parents. So are these groups for all caregivers?
Yes.
How does that work?
It just does.
Yeah.
So we have had, the reason that we say it's inclusive and it's for all parents is that it's for queer parents, it's for single parents, it's for solo parents by choice. We have families who are two dads who've had babies via surrogates. We have families who are two mums. We have families where the parents are gender non-binary. And we want to make sure that we are providing safe spaces for all of those parents. And that is why it's called Imperfect Parents, not a mother's group, because I wanted to make sure that we are being really explicit that what we are providing is safe spaces for all of these people, that we use pretty gender neutral language when we talk about parenting. And when I teach antenatal classes, we talk about pregnant people and birthing people. And that is because we literally have trans people coming through our classes. And we already know that, we know that the maternal mental health statistics, the perinatal mental health statistics are already pretty dire. And they are often worse for people who are, in some kind of marginalized group. So if we can provide some kind of support for those people in a place where they know that they can be safe, I believe that that is an extremely protective thing for them.
So do I. Amazing. Wow. Let's put Sophie for Prime Minister. I love that. No,
Lucinda, no way. Who would want that?
That's a whole other podcast as well. Thank you for that, Sophie, because I know so many people's heads will be nodding when they hear you talk all of that back about your beautiful idea. You're asking why not, and actually taking action to set it up. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to credit. I worked when I was studying childbirth education. I worked with a mentor called Lou Kelly, who sadly is no longer with us, and I learned so much from them. They were a trans non-binary midwife who was teaching antenatal education, spreading a lot of these messages. And I wouldn't be working in the space. I wouldn't have these ideas if it wasn't for them. So I really want to credit them with that. It's not my ideas, but a legacy that I am very proud to be continuing.
That's legacy, right?
Yeah.
Legacy. Thank you for talking about them, and
Mm.
they're an important part of this whole story.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you.
Mm.
First of all, what I'd be curious about, Sophie, I don't know actually if you've got a partner, but if you think about you and your partner and your family, you've got 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
What conversations have felt important for you so far in your journey?
That is a very good question.
I know.
I think with each child, it has evolved. We've been in very different life phases with each child as well. So I think these conversations are really ever evolving things. I think when I had my first, I was so passionate about diving into motherhood that I really took on everything. And I wanted to do that. And I really, like, when I look back on it now, it was kind of to the point where there was a lot of maternal gatekeeping going on. I don't know if we're familiar with that term, but
when you say maternal gatekeeping, what do you mean, Sophie?
when I say maternal gatekeeping, what I mean is that I kept a very tight control on what was happening with our child. Every detail of her life and her care, I felt was super important. This is kind of linked with that perfectionism thing as well. I wanted everything to be done in a very particular way. I was probably quite hypercritical of my partner when he didn't do things the way that I thought they should be done, which meant I often just didn't relinquish any of that control to him. And I've had to learn to do that over time, particularly when we had another child. There was a lot more, just by necessity, we ended up kind of like dividing and conquering for quite a while where, I was mostly in charge of the baby. He was mostly in charge of the toddler, and I just had to relinquish that. Again, I was probably still quite controlling of what was happening with our baby. And so third time around, I think what has been the most different for us has been me kind of realizing that when I was doing that real control, then the consequence of that was I ended up feeling quite trapped in it as well. I felt like I couldn't go out. I was breastfeeding these babies. I was the only one that could put them to bed. And I ended up feeling really trapped and going like, oh, but now I can't go out and do the things I want to do. So third time around, partly, again, like by necessity, like our big kids still needed me. I didn't want to be as like unavailable to them. But also I wanted my partner to have way more input into the baby. And so right from the beginning, we've kind of swapped out with the baby, with him settling the baby and putting him to sleep. Even though, again, I was still breastfeeding, we've actually never succeeded with bottle feeding any of our babies. But it's been a good learning that it is possible to settle and soothe the baby without breastfeeding. And, that just by getting him to do it right from early on, he learned his own ways of doing it. And so that really it just feels like this time around, we're just so much more even. We can either of us can do anything.
Yeah.
We can I felt like I could go out in the evenings a lot earlier, both of us. Again, like we also have quite a big age gap between our second and third kid, which makes things a little bit easier sometimes. But yeah, it just feels like it's been a lot more of a sharing of the load. I think also before we had our third child, because we'd already been through it twice, we just knew a lot more what to expect. Yeah. Like, okay, this is going to be a shit show for a little while.
Yeah.
I often feel like the first year of having a baby, even 2 years, is a little bit of a write-off when it comes to like having any semblance of a life relationship. But really knowing that we could kind of hold on to some fundamentals, and we just kind of had to survive. But that we did it, and I'm pretty proud of the way that we've done it, in a way that feels like it's sharing the load really as much as we could.
Yeah, I love that, and I love the evolution from 1 to 3, right? And when I hear you talk that back, what I really hear is it kind of had to change
Yeah,
because it couldn't continue.
it's not sustainable. No.
No. I mean, did you actively talk about it or
Yeah.
did it? Yeah, yes.
I
So,
mean, I do this for my work, so like, of course we did. But
no,
we
well,
also,
but
but we also
it's a
did
good
like,
point because,
yeah,
like, so sometimes, because I just want to make the point that I do this all day, right? And I make it sound very easy having these
mm.
conversations,
Oh,
but actually, they're bloody hard.
oh,
So,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, it's just because you do something for your work does not mean that you have it down pat at home by any means.
exactly.
No, but I felt like I would be a hypocrite if I didn't at least try.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, because like you say, you're like giving people this advice all the time. So you're like, I should probably take this advice myself as well. But yeah, the conversations are hard. I think it was after our second, we did some couples counseling as well because I was really struggling with. Actually, it was really great. I remember actually a single counseling session that I had one time. I was really struggling with taking time out for myself away from the children and leaving them with him because I felt like it was really hard for him to have both of them. You know, especially when like at that point, you know, I'd walk out the front door and both of my children would just be like wailing at the door, going like, "No, mommy, don't leave us." And so you have this like heart wrenching, like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry." And just this like guilt every time I would leave. And what I loved was this counselor that I talked to who said, you know, you've got to choose between the guilt versus the resentment. And so there is the guilt for when you go away and do something for yourself. And if you keep practicing that, the guilt lessens over time and you get the benefit of doing that thing for yourself. If you don't do that, you're kind of just left with the resentment, and then that's going to build over time. And that's going to be resentment for your partner and resentment towards your children often. And that's not healthy for anybody. So I loved that framing of it. And I use that all the time with parents now because it's like, well, the more we can practice this, the more we realize that we're all okay. Everybody survives, assuming that you are leaving them in the hands of a capable carer and their needs are being met. And I know that not everybody has access to that. But if you do, they're all fine. And they're often better off for it because the children are learning that they can trust the other parent or the other carer, and the carer is learning how to meet those children's needs. And it gets easier for everybody over time.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear you talk that back, it feels like to me the conversation you first had to enable this was with yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's really common. You know, a lot of the parents that I work with, it's like their own internal guilt for going away, and you're constantly trying to be like, but everyone's okay. Everyone's fine. We have this guilt. And then, if you unpack it further, it's like, well, where is that coming from? Yeah. Who is telling you that you need to spend every waking moment with your child in order to be a good mother? Because again, that's not how we evolved to parent.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we evolved to raise children in groups and for them to have allo parents, which is like other, you know, parent figures and grandparents. And they didn't evolve to be like one-on-one constantly with just one person. So we need to, you know, sometimes we have to work harder to find that for our families now. And if that's daycare, that's daycare, you know, like that. I think that is a really vital role that daycare plays in a lot of people's lives. Those are the other parents that we share the load with because that's all we have access to.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And again, it's another reason why your groups are really important as safe spaces to talk about this, like to talk about this complicatedness of, I love my kids, but I don't want to be with them 24/7.
Yeah. Is there anyone you want to be with 24/7?
This is a good point. Barely myself.
Exactly. It's like we don't want to be with our partners 24/7. Like, why would we expect that of our children? Yeah. We all need we need variety.
Yeah, totally. I don't know what your partner does, but if he's in paid work, how have you, because you've got your own business, which you can probably work around your commitments to your family and the caregiving responsibilities that you own. How have you guys, you talked about sharing the load, because for me, every family looks different, and I'm not looking for equality, but I think equity is important. How have you done that? Like the
Yeah.
caregiving, the mental load, how the physical load, how does that work in your family?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think, like, to start out with, the way that our family looks is that, yes, my partner, he works in a full-time job, and he always has done since we had children. Since having my second child, I have not gone back to any full-time employment. And there is a great deal of financial privilege in that I always like to acknowledge. We are really lucky that we live in a home that was like on my mum's section. You know, we've had family help with our home. So like our mortgage is significantly lower than what most people's would be. I think the way that we live and the incomes that we have is not what it should be on paper. So that's a really important thing to acknowledge, is that we have financial privilege to be able to live the way that we do and structure our lives the way that we do. And that is what has enabled me to be working on this business for the last 3 years and earning very little money from it. But being able to grow it to the point where I'm really hoping that very soon I will be able to. So yeah, we've kind of structured it that he's in full-time employment. I'm running my business, but it's really mostly been kind of like around the kids. So at the moment, we've still got our youngest home full-time. My mum lives next door and she cares for him a couple mornings a week while I'm facilitating groups. I will put him in daycare probably beginning of next year. Our youngest went to daycare from about 18 months. Our second went to daycare from about 18 months, but it's only been like short part-time hours. And that really has just been because I'm not earning very much, mostly just trying to keep our childcare costs as low as possible. And again, we have the privilege of a family member who has been able to help out. My dad died 2 years ago, but before that, he was also helping us out with some childcare as well. So that's kind of enabled me to like work in little bits here and there while mostly being available for our children. So my partner for the last few years has always worked a job where he leaves really early in the morning, like 5:30, 6 a.m. So he's gone before we're awake. So it's kind of me doing the full morning routine with all of the kids, getting everyone out the door. And then often because he starts so early, he is usually home in the afternoons by like, on a good day, 3:30, 4 o'clock. And so then we're both home for most of the afternoons, which again is like really different, I think, from what most families have. And our real policy is just like, if we are both home, we're both on, and we are just constantly going like, right, are you taking the kids and the dog out for a walk while I cook dinner, or vice versa? We kind of, I think quite early on, particularly with like the evening routine, I would just, and this was often me like organizing it, but it's just because I'm a lot more of a like type A proactive kind of person. Or, okay, here are the things that need to be done. You choose which one you want to do today. It's like, do you want to walk the dog and the children, or do you want to cook dinner? And then, you know, we all have dinner together. It's like, okay, do you want to bath the kids, or do you want to wash the dishes? And so we're often kind of both doing those jobs at the same time. So that then ideally by the time the kids are in bed, most of the jobs are done.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that phrase, we're both always on.
Yeah.
I think that's a really nice thing to talk about if you have a partner. Because I think I think there's a risk that if there's one partner in a relationship who is out of the home all day at paid work, that when you get home, you're tired. and you just want to rest. But it's about getting to the stage where it's like, well, we are both always on. I mean, ideally, you'd want him to be knowing what needs to happen anyway, and I'm sure he does. But it's just, again, the thing I hear in that is just keep talking about it. Work is work wherever it's happening, and there's a lot at home, really.
Yeah. And I think, again, like one of the things I talk to with the parents that I work with is that often until like the parent that's working in a job, until they have spent a full day caring for children by themselves, they often don't understand how much work is involved in that. And so again, that's where that like split it, you know, swapping out sometimes, giving them opportunities to do that really gives them that appreciation for what you are doing when you are the one that's home all day. And then obviously if you're both working, there's like more negotiations that need to happen. You're both working outside of the home. But yeah, everyone's family situations are so different, and there's so much that comes into it with, you know, there's a lot of families I know where like the partner doesn't get home from work until 6 or 7 p.m. and then that's a whole different ball game if you're not even there for like dinner time.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's always like the crunchiest time of the day.
It's hard. I think talking about it is really important.
And we still we still have to prompt a lot of conversations, you know, like now when it comes to like, for example, the mental load of like food and dinners and things, and, you know, we sit down and we now do like click and collect shopping together. My partner usually goes to pick it up, goes to the fruit and veggie shop as well and gets all of that, brings it home, and then we'll kind of sit there together and be like, okay, what have we got? What dinners can we make with this? Let's just write them down. So then like either one of us can cook, but we're not having to do it's the idea, the mental load of like planning the dinners that I think is the hardest.
Yeah.
And now we get our children involved in that as well.
Yeah.
And that is really helpful, especially when you've got picky eaters.
I love it how...
What will you eat then?
I love it how they eat one thing one week, but not the next.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? I don't... And then
that's like my little life hack at the moment is like getting my kids, they kind of take turns, the older ones will be like, okay, we've got chicken for dinner tonight. And we hop on TikTok and we look at like TikTok recipes for chicken. And then because it's a video, they like quite like it. And then they'll be like, oh, that one. And then they want to help make it and follow the recipe. So it's actually quite a good way of like getting buy-in from older children. Yeah.
Genius. Love it. I love it. What about when you put your facilitator hat on of a lot of the groups that you've run as facilitator, specifically thinking about, because most of my parents work outside the home and have kids, are there any common threads on sort of pain points for people that are working and having a family and the conversations that they wish they've been having? Or like, what would you think when I say that to you? Like, what are the threads there?
The stage that I'm often seeing parents is, because the groups that we facilitate that are like the conversational groups are parents of like younger babies while they're still on parental leave, but often it's the like navigating returning to work and what that's going to look like. And so that can be conversations around childcare and what different options are for childcare and what they want that to look like, but also just like the actual kind of like mental, emotional toll of going back to work. And there's often a lot of, you know, people really joke about the whole baby brain thing and they're like, oh, but, you know, I'm on maternity leave and I feel like my brain stopped working and I'm going to be terrible when I go back to work, and really almost like losing confidence in themselves as employees, as workers, which I think is a real shame. And I really try to emphasize for parents the skills that they have gained from, you know, over maternity leave or over parental leave, the skills that they've gained by becoming a parent. And there are so many different things, but like, you know, first of all, just like, and we know that the brain changes when we have babies, and we know that the empathy areas of our brain increase in capacity and increase in size. So it's like you're going back to work with increased empathy. Great. You're going back with an increased understanding of other parents and their situation. Amazing. Like we get a lot of people in our groups who are medical professionals. And so I'm always like, you are going to be so great at your job when you go back. Particularly if, you know, if it's their first baby. Not that they weren't great at their jobs before, but even better. We also know that you just become so much better at like time management and prioritizing your time. You know, you just don't really fuck around quite as much.
Technical term.
Yeah. Just like, okay, I've got to get this done. I don't want to waste my time here. I think, and then so there's just a lot of ways that I think people underestimate the skills that they gain from parenthood, the connections that they gain from parenthood as well, particularly, you know, in groups like ours, we really do see people actually kind of networking in them as well. Yeah, I think that's probably, those are the conversations that I really enjoy having, is like helping people to reframe those insecurities.
Yeah, helping people to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
To know what positives they're bringing back. I think it is a really important conversation, and I think for everyone listening, find the safe spaces to have those conversations, and have and when I and everyone will have a different definition of what safe feels like to them, but find your people, right? Find people that are going to go, what? No, you're going to be like 50 million times better, or even people that just say, I know, it sucks, right? It sucks, and you'll be able to do this. Yeah,
you know? And I think the other thing that when people are underestimating themselves, they go back and they're like too scared to ask for what they want in terms of like, you know, the hours, the money, any of that. And so they're like, oh no, I just have to like accept what they're going to give me, when it's like, no, you know, you've already proven yourself to be like a valuable person. You go back in there and you ask for what you want. And that's what I really encourage people to do. Go back in there, say you want full-time pay and you're going to work part-time hours. See what they say. What have you got to lose? They might say yes, they might say no. Apply for full-time roles. And then when they offer it to you, say, cool, thanks. I actually only want to do 4 days.
Yeah.
And then if they like you enough, they might be like, cool. Yeah.
Make them want
I've
you.
seen it happen multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people underestimating themselves also means that they end up undervaluing themselves.
I really love that link, Sophie. If we think we've got baby brain and how I'm never going to be able to do this and I'm half the person I was, they're never going to advocate for what they need. Yeah. They're actually never even going to hear what they need because they're going to discount it straight away. So that's why that conversation, either with your friends, with a partner, with a facilitator, with a coach, those are the kind of conversations I have all the time as well. Really important. It feels like infrastructure, believing in yourself. And for me, this whole baby brain thing, I've got 3 kids as well. It's really funny messaging, this baby brain, because for me, I don't really know what that means, because me being at home with my kids was the hardest job I've ever had. Yeah. And it's kind of, and even the fog, yes, okay, you're sleep deprived, but fuck, we're machines. If I can get 3 kids out the door by 7 a.m., I'm doing pretty well. We need to reframe this, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think because I also hear, you know, from other parents where they're like, oh, well, the ones that are maybe there with their second babies, they're like, oh, well, I went back part-time with my first and I accepted the part-time pay, but you end up most of the time being available 5 days a week and almost doing more work than that. So it's like, well, if you can front foot that and value yourself and say, I'm going to give you the same value as I was, just going to do it in less time because I'm way more efficient with my time now. You should still pay me the same.
Yeah. And I really love Sophie's advice is just ask for it.
Yeah.
You know, like when we ask for what we need, we either get it or we don't.
Yeah,
exactly. Both of it's given us an answer.
Yeah, people just get scared of having the conversation.
Yeah.
Money's hard to talk about. I get it. I'm bad at talking about money too.
Money is hard to talk about it, but script it, practice it with a friend, and I would use a lot of full stop silence. Don't over-explain yourself too much. So if the goal is, well, I want to go back 4 days a week, but I reckon I can do the whole job in 4. I want full pay. Just, you know, hey, I'm really keen to come back to work. I need to work 4 days a week for my family. I believe I can get the role done. How might we ensure this job is full salary and delivered in 4 days a week? Full stop silence. And just live in that silence. So, you know, I think silence is good stuff. And look, a lot of them will have to go away and think about that. But if we don't ask questions like this, the system will never change.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it goes for both parents as well. I really loved a friend of mine, her partner was a partner in a very big law firm. And when they had their first baby, he went in and was like, you know, I don't want to keep doing that. You know, they do really crazy, like late nights all the time. And he's like, I don't want to be doing that all the time. I don't want to be going out for like business dinners all the time. And this is a big law firm. He was the first man that had ever asked for that. And they were so surprised. They're like, yeah, the women ask for it and then they don't become partners and then they like lose their trajectory. But a man had never asked for it. It's like, we need the men asking for it too. So it becomes normalized in the culture. So that it's not unusual when a woman does it, so that they can stay on the same trajectory if they want to.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I've been doing quite a lot of work on senior part-time work recently, and if we want senior part-time work to be created, designed and advertised, we actually need men doing it because it can't just be women. I think the thing is there are some industries that are very hard to shift.
Yeah.
But that does not take away that we can still ask the question.
Absolutely.
And that's what I would encourage everyone to do, is to ask curious, naive questions.
Yeah.
And do it in a light way, right? Hey, I was thinking, how might it be possible to do this part-time? 4 days a week? Because this stuff we're talking about is complicated and hard. So if you make it complicated and hard, it will never get addressed.
Yeah. And I think also it's easy, a lot of that like self-doubt is like comes down to people kind of like putting them blame on themselves as individuals for going like, well, it's my fault for putting myself in this position or taking the time out from my career. And it's like, no, the system's just really not been set up to support this. It's not your fault. It's not any individual's fault. It's just the capitalist system that we live in that does not place value on us taking time away in this time of our lives.
Well, the system doesn't value caregiving, because if it did, both parents would be paid to stay at home.
Yes, and we'd also pay our teachers and nurses.
And we pay. It's a whole lot of. That's what it is, right? And so, but what happens is we pay the price. Well, when we think about children and family and working, parents are paying the price, and at a macro level, mothers pay a financial price, but all parents pay a price.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, is that it's like the fathers miss out too, the working parents miss out too. That's what I've seen in our family, is that like having the time structure that I described, our partner getting these extra hours every day with our children has made such a difference to our family. It's made such a difference to our relationship in the way that we can, like we're both are so much more involved than most families that I see. And I just feel so lucky that we've been able to do that. And it's a really rare thing. Which is such a shame, because it's like, just means that everyone's kind of missing out on those relationships.
Totally. Finally, if you could wish for working parents to have one conversation, the conversation that you think is a really important one, what would you wish for that conversation to be? Like, what do you think is the most important thing that we talk about if we're in a dual career couple with children?
Besides the overthrow of capitalism?
It's
really like the most salient thing that stands out to me.
Besides the overthrow of capitalism and and generally people not being at the heart. Yes. This is one of my things, is like we all want to change the system, and I think that by asking friendly, annoying questions at work and of our MPs and all that, it's one little way we can do that. But if we accept the system we are working in, which is basically a setup, okay, and if we can call it for a setup, because it makes it look like we can do everything. Like, how do we survive? What if you are partnered, what are the conversations you need to be having, or what's the biggest conversation you need to have?
I think in partnerships, it's really just like looking at the partnership and going, is this an equitable partnership? And like what you said before, is it's about equity, and it's about people contributing in the ways that they can. I really liked a quote I saw recently. I can't remember where it was now, but it was saying, like, in an equal or equitable partnership, we shouldn't be aiming for 50-50. We should each both be aiming to do 60%, so that we're also looking after each other. Because I think when we're in this situation where we're like trying to claw our way to 50-50, it becomes like competitive sometimes, going like, I'm doing more, no, I'm doing more, instead of going like, oh no, we're in this partnership, we're in this family because we love each other. That's how we got into this situation, hopefully, for most people. Because we love each other and we want to be here for each other. And often when you're in that like survival mode of parenthood, it feels like nobody's looking after you. So if we can also just do like little extra things, which feels like more work, if we can both be doing them, then you can get into like more of a cycle of positivity. And it, like when someone's looking after you, it makes you want to look after them, and it becomes so much easier for everything to be reciprocal and so much easier to look out for each other and see what needs to be done, and instead of feeling like you're competing with each other.
Yeah, I love that. So moving away from competing with each other, but to actually working together. You're a team, you're united, you're aiming for 60-60, which is a great split.
And we often joke that it's like us, instead of like us against each other, my partner and I, we kind of joke sometimes like us against the kids. That like, it's like we're a team against these children.
Yeah.
And even, sometimes it's just little things where it's like, oh, you really like smashed getting them all in the bath tonight. High five. Like, just,
I love that.
Like break upping each other, because
I love that.
It's such a thankless job sometimes.
You're seen. It's seen.
Exactly. It's like the only recognition you're ever going to get for it.
It's seen, because in breaking news, bath happens every day.
Every day. And every day
possibly,
you've got to get them in there.
Possibly, but I don't know how many more years in your life, but I'm just feeling for you and seeing you. I really love that. And I really love, I'm writing a book at the moment, which is at helping working parents to have better conversations. And one of my chapters is called It's Not You, It's the System. And it's kind of a similar thought of like, let's unite against the system. Let's know that the system is this third party here, but we know what it's trying to do. Like, we've clocked it. And because I think what it does is it pits parents against each other. And if we can kind of like externalize it and go, oh yeah, we hate each other at the moment because childcare is so expensive, or because parental leave is only available for one parent. And then that makes it, we can go, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's great.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophie. Now, Sophie, if people have really enjoyed what you've talked about, how can they support your business? What would you like them to do? I will put all of this in the show notes as well, but if you'd like to just tell them where they could go or the support you need. I know you're trying to do something at the moment, but yeah, what would you like to tell everyone here?
Thank you. Yes. We are really trying to make our business financially sustainable is what we are trying to do right now.
How novel. How novel, Sophie.
So crazy. We've pretty much been working on like a user pays system at the moment, which only works when people can afford to pay for what we're doing, which at the moment really only seems to work in central Auckland, unsurprisingly. We would love to grow more. And so we are applying for a whole lot of different funding at the moment. And part of that funding is me trying to show that we have a big community of people in person, but we also have quite a big online community, and particularly on our Instagram page, which is imperfectparents.nz. I'm really trying to reach 10,000 followers because that's just so much more satisfying to write on a funding application. I'm also open to any philanthropic donations that can help to sustain this, so that we've always operated under a user pays model, but we have also always offered koha spots for people to just pay whatever they can. And those have just been funded by me pretty much. So I'd love to make that more sustainable as we grow, so that we can grow. That's really our biggest thing. So yes, imperfectparents.nz on Instagram and on TikTok. Our website is imperfectparents.co.nz. Do you know what's funny? I've been in the process of planning and making a podcast also, which was going to be the Imperfect Parents podcast. But I've also been working with my friend Abby, who has the Why Do You Parent Like That podcast.
Oh, yes.
And we've decided to combine our forces. And I am just going to do regular features on her podcast, which will be delving into a lot of like parenting topics. As you can tell, I love to get into the politics behind things as well. So it'll be little, bite-sized bits of parenting and politics combined.
Parenting and politics, that's a value proposition, isn't it?
Here we go, yeah. Who's going to give us money now?
I love that. Well, I will put all that information on the show notes. Thank you so much, Sophie. Thank you and your family for having the courage to start this business. And, it is hard. And literally, you're not making any money. And you want it to be different, though. So if people want to support you, that would be awesome. Because I think it's filling a real problem here, which is we don't live in a village anymore. We are all doing this alone in our own homes. We do have these perfect role models we're trying to live up to. It's lonely, it's scary, and we don't know if we're doing it right. And to meet other people who feel like that makes it somehow better, and is how we're meant to be living, right? So I really love that, and I really want you to be successful. So
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Onwards and upwards. Thank you for listening to this episode of It's Good to Talk. This podcast was brought to you by Works for Everyone. It's the business that I own, your host, Emma McLean. We are a company that partners with progressive businesses to help support their mums and dads in the workplace and at home through innovative leadership programs, executive coaching, and keynote speaking. I hope you did like this episode. If you did, please follow on your favorite podcast platforms, share with a friend, and if you want to know any more information, check out Works for Everyone on Instagram or on the interweb. Until next time, remember, it's good to talk.